Uthman ibn Affan was born into a respected and wealthy family in the city of Taif around the year 577, several years after the famous Year of the Elephant. He was younger than the Prophet Muhammad by a few years and grew up during a time when tribal pride, trade, and poetry shaped the culture of Arabia. His father, Affan ibn Abu'l-As, belonged to the powerful Umayyad clan of the Quraysh tribe, one of the most influential families in Mecca. This clan was known for its leadership in trade and politics, and Uthman inherited both wealth and reputation from his family. From a young age he was known for his gentle nature, honesty, and intelligence. Even though he lived among people who valued power and status, his personality was quiet and thoughtful. He was not attracted to the rough customs that were common in society at the time. Instead, he preferred dignity, good manners, and generosity. His father passed away while traveling in the region of Sham, leaving Uthman a large inheritance. At a relatively young age he found himself responsible for a significant fortune and the continuation of the family's trading business. Rather than wasting the wealth he inherited, he used it wisely. He expanded the business routes and became known as a successful merchant whose caravans traveled far beyond Arabia. Markets in Mecca respected his presence, and traders trusted his word. He was skilled in negotiation and business strategy, yet he never allowed wealth to make him arrogant. His honesty made people comfortable dealing with him, and his good reputation spread across trading communities. Despite having wealth, influence, and comfort, there was something missing in his heart. The spiritual environment of Arabia at the time was dominated by idol worship, tribal rivalries, and social injustice. Many people worshipped statues made of stone or wood, believing they had power to bring benefit or harm. Uthman felt uneasy about these beliefs. His mind and heart were searching for something greater than the traditions he had grown up with. He often reflected on the meaning of life and wondered about the truth behind existence. Although he lived in luxury compared to many others, inner peace still seemed distant. One experience deeply affected him. During one of his journeys for trade he had a dream that stayed in his mind long after he woke up. The dream was mysterious and powerful, and he felt that it carried a message he could not fully understand. When he returned home he shared the dream with a relative who had knowledge of dreams and their interpretations. The explanation she gave him suggested that something important would soon enter his life, something that would guide him to a greater truth. From that moment Uthman began thinking even more deeply about faith and purpose. Around this time Abu Bakr, who had already accepted the message of Islam, noticed that Uthman seemed thoughtful and concerned. Abu Bakr approached him and asked what was troubling his mind. Uthman shared his dream and the questions that had been growing in his heart. Abu Bakr listened carefully and then spoke to him about the message of the Prophet Muhammad, who was calling people to worship one God and abandon idols. The words of Abu Bakr resonated deeply with Uthman. The message felt clear and logical, and it answered many of the questions he had carried inside for years. Soon after, Abu Bakr took him to meet the Prophet himself. When Uthman heard the message directly from the Prophet, he immediately felt certainty in his heart. Without hesitation he accepted Islam, becoming one of the earliest believers. This decision changed the course of his life forever. Accepting the new faith was not an easy choice, especially for someone from a powerful family in Mecca. Many leaders of the Quraysh saw Islam as a threat to their authority and traditions. Anyone who accepted the new religion risked persecution, ridicule, and even violence. Yet Uthman was determined to follow the truth he had found. The reaction from some members of his own family was harsh. One of his relatives became particularly angry and tried to force him to abandon his new belief. Uthman was tied up and threatened in an attempt to make him return to the religion of his ancestors. Despite the pressure, he remained firm. He declared that he would never turn away from the path he believed was right. Eventually the person who had been torturing him realized that Uthman would not give up his faith, and he was released. This early test showed the strength of his character and the sincerity of his belief. Uthman's life soon became closely connected with the household of the Prophet. At that time, two daughters of the Prophet had been previously promised in marriage to the sons of a prominent opponent of Islam. After hostility toward the Prophet increased, those engagements were broken. Uthman later approached the Prophet and respectfully asked for the hand of his daughter Ruqayya in marriage. The Prophet accepted, and the marriage took place. Their union brought joy to both families and strengthened the bond between them. Uthman became not only a companion of the Prophet but also part of his family. However, the persecution of Muslims in Mecca was growing more severe. Many believers were beaten, insulted, and prevented from practicing their religion freely. The Prophet advised some of his followers to migrate to Abyssinia, a land across the sea where a just ruler allowed people to live in peace. Uthman and his wife Ruqayya were among the first to make this journey. Leaving one's homeland was not easy, but they chose to sacrifice comfort and familiarity in order to protect their faith. Their time in Abyssinia was a period of safety compared to the hardships they had faced in Mecca. During their stay they were blessed with a son whom they named Abdullah. Uthman chose this name because it was beloved by the Prophet. Even while living far from their homeland, their connection to the Prophet and the growing Muslim community remained strong. Eventually, when circumstances changed and the call for migration to Medina came, Uthman once again prepared to leave everything behind for the sake of faith. He thus became one of the few companions who migrated twice in the path of belief. When the Muslim community settled in Medina, a new chapter of history began. The city was being transformed into the center of a growing society built on justice, faith, and cooperation. Uthman played a role in many of the developments taking place. He supported the building of the mosque, participated in community affairs, and continued his business activities in a way that benefited the people around him. His wealth allowed him to contribute generously to the needs of the community, but he never used his position to gain personal advantage. One of the qualities that made Uthman stand out was his modesty. Despite being known for his handsome appearance and noble background, he was extremely humble. People who met him often noticed how respectful and gentle he was in speech and behavior. His modesty was so remarkable that it became widely discussed among the companions. It was said that even angels felt a sense of respect in his presence because of his modest character. This reputation was not based on a single action but on a consistent pattern of behavior that people observed throughout his life. Uthman was also known for his deep connection with the Quran. He loved reciting it and reflecting on its meaning. It is reported that he would read it so often that his copies became worn from constant use. His voice while reciting carried a sense of devotion that touched those who listened. He believed that if hearts were truly pure they would never grow tired of the words of the Quran. This love for scripture later influenced one of the most important contributions he would make to Islamic history. Another well-known story about Uthman shows both his generosity and his intelligence in trade. In Medina there was a famous well that provided fresh water even during times of drought. The well was owned by a man who charged high prices for access to its water. As the Muslim population grew, the need for water increased, and many people struggled to afford it. Seeing the difficulty faced by the community, the Prophet encouraged someone to purchase the well so that its water could be freely available to everyone. Uthman decided to take on this responsibility. He approached the owner and negotiated to purchase half of the well first. His business skills allowed him to reach an agreement that benefited both sides. On the days that the well belonged to him, Uthman allowed people to take water without paying anything. Families came to collect water for themselves and their neighbors, grateful for the relief. Because people preferred the free water, the owner soon realized that his own profits were disappearing. Eventually he agreed to sell the remaining half as well. Uthman then made the entire well available to the public. What had once been a costly resource became a blessing for everyone. His generosity continued throughout his life. Whenever the community faced financial difficulty, he stepped forward to help. One of the most famous examples occurred during a time of famine in Medina. Food was scarce, and people were struggling to survive. Around that time, a large caravan belonging to Uthman arrived in the city carrying goods loaded on hundreds of camels. Traders came to him offering large profits if he would sell the goods to them. Instead of accepting the offers, Uthman explained that he had already found a buyer who promised a much greater reward. The buyer he referred to was not a merchant but the promise of divine reward for charity. He distributed the entire caravan's contents to those in need without taking payment. Such action strengthened his reputation as one of the most generous members of the community. People respected him not only for his wealth but for the way he used it. He believed that material possessions were temporary and that true success came from helping others and seeking the pleasure of God. At the same time, his business continued to prosper, showing that generosity did not reduce his fortune. In fact, many believed that his blessings increased because of the sincerity behind his giving. Uthman also participated in many important moments during the lifetime of the Prophet. During certain battles he fought alongside the Muslim community. On one occasion he remained behind in Medina because his wife Ruqayya was seriously ill. The Prophet asked him to stay and care for her. When the Muslim army returned victorious, Ruqayya had passed away. Uthman experienced deep sorrow at her loss, not only because she was his beloved wife but also because he felt his connection to the Prophet's household had been weakened. Seeing his sadness, the Prophet later arranged for him to marry his other daughter Kulthum. Through this marriage Uthman became known as the man who had been married to two daughters of the Prophet, a unique honor in Islamic history. After the passing of the Prophet, leadership of the Muslim community passed to Abu Bakr, then to Umar. During these periods Uthman remained a trusted advisor and respected elder. His experience in trade, his knowledge of scripture, and his calm personality made him valuable in discussions about governance and community matters. He did not seek power for himself but focused on serving the community. Eventually, after the passing of Umar, the responsibility of leadership was given to Uthman. As the third caliph he faced a rapidly expanding state. Territories across the Middle East and beyond were now part of the Muslim world, bringing new challenges in administration, culture, and communication. One of the most important achievements during his leadership was the preservation of the Quran in a standardized written form. As Islam spread to different regions, variations in recitation began to appear due to differences in dialect. To protect the unity of the scripture, Uthman ordered the preparation of official copies based on the original compilation that had been preserved earlier. These copies were sent to major cities, ensuring that the Quran would be read consistently across the expanding community. Although his leadership brought many accomplishments, the later years of his rule were also marked by growing political tensions. Some groups criticized certain administrative decisions and began spreading accusations against him. In a large and rapidly expanding empire, communication was slow and misunderstandings could easily spread. Political rivals and dissatisfied individuals used these circumstances to create unrest. Gradually, opposition movements formed in different regions. The situation eventually escalated when a group of rebels traveled to Medina and surrounded Uthman's house. Many companions of the Prophet offered to defend him and fight the rebels, but Uthman refused to allow bloodshed in the city of the Prophet. He insisted that he would not permit violence in order to protect himself. For several days the rebels prevented him from leaving his home. Despite the tension, he remained calm and continued spending his time reading the Quran and praying. Tragically, the rebels eventually forced their way into his house and killed him. His death shocked the Muslim community and marked one of the most painful events in early Islamic history. Uthman died while reciting the Quran, a book he had loved and served throughout his life. The conflict that followed his death led to further divisions and struggles within the community. Even though his life ended in such a tragic way, the legacy of Uthman ibn Affan remains one of generosity, humility, and devotion. He was a man who combined wealth with compassion, power with modesty, and leadership with patience. From his early days as a merchant searching for truth to his later years guiding a growing civilization, his story reflects the challenges and possibilities faced by the first generation of Muslims. His example continues to inspire people to think about how they use their resources and influence. Wealth, when combined with sincerity and kindness, can become a means of helping others and building a better society. Modesty, even in positions of power, can create respect and unity. Faith, when held firmly despite difficulty, can transform a person's life and leave a lasting impact on history. The life of Uthman ibn Affan reminds us that greatness is not measured only by power or success but by character. His generosity during famine, his dedication to preserving the Quran, and his refusal to allow violence in his own defense all reflect a personality guided by principle. His story continues to be told not only as a chapter of history but as a lesson about integrity, patience, and devotion.